History doesn't always kick off with a massive explosion or some giant alien ship hovering over a city. Sometimes, as the source material for today's explainer reveals, the end begins with something incredibly mundane, a single, synchronized notification. Imagine it's tomorrow morning, you're drinking your coffee, getting ready for work, and suddenly, every single screen on Earth turns pitch black. Phones, laptops, televisions, giant digital billboards, even the satellites orbiting above us. Just everything. We're going to unpack this terrifying sci-fi scenario step by step and look at the exact sequence of events that led to humanity's ultimate test. The sheer visual impact of this first moment is just staggering. At exactly 8:17 a.m., there is a total global blackout. For 7 very long seconds, the entire world experiences total digital silence. Then, this ominous first warning appears on every screen simultaneously. There's no sender, no corporate logo, no explanation of who is even speaking, just cold, hard text staring back at 8 billion people. If you're reading this, humanity has less than 1 year left. It is literally a masterclass in absolute terror because it strips away all of our technological security in a fraction of a second. And then a second sentence pops up, and this is the absolute crux of the entire mystery. Do not complete the quantum gateway. And just like that, the message completely vanishes without a trace. Well, as you can probably imagine, the internet immediately explodes. People are asking, is this the greatest hack in human history? Is it some rogue AI experiment? World governments issue immediate denials, and massive tech companies swear up and down that their systems haven't been breached. But you know how it goes. The seeds of panic are already sown, and the world starts arguing instead of actually listening. Now notice how the narrative shifts right here, from widespread skepticism to undeniable horror. The sender clearly needed to prove they weren't just some guy in a basement with a laptop. So, a new message arrives, predicting an earthquake in the Pacific in exactly 60 seconds. An earthquake, by the way, that no scientific instrument had detected. Scientists totally scoffed at it. People were live streaming the countdown as a joke until the Earth actually shook. Then, the message predicted flight AX-271 would disappear in 14 minutes. Air traffic control checked, everything was totally normal, until exactly 14 minutes later when the plane vanished into thin air. The terrifying precision of these events proved one impossible fact. The sender actually knew the future. This brings us to a really fascinating psychological pivot in the story. The third message suddenly stops predicting catastrophic disasters and instead makes a chilling behavioral forecast about human nature itself. Tomorrow, humanity will choose curiosity over fear. So it's no longer about plans or earthquakes, it's about predicting our own hubris. The sender knows exactly how we are going to react to the unknown. And honestly, the sender was absolutely right. Let's just trace humanity's frantic response here. First, every government on the planet launches the largest investigation in history, finding absolutely no source and no trace of the signal. Next up, a highly classified emergency summit is held by world leaders. And finally, they make this fateful decision. An international research program is secretly approved, and its name? Project Quantum Gateway. In this incredible display of human arrogance, we secretly began building the exact machine the very first message explicitly warned us against. Then comes the fourth message, which is totally framed as the ultimate trap. It isn't a warning this time. It's a blueprint. Thousands of pages just magically appear simultaneously on highly secure government servers. We're talking about equations, materials, and engineering designs that are decades, maybe even centuries, beyond human imagination. And you want to know the most terrifying part? When scientists actually ran the numbers, every single physics-defying calculation worked perfectly. It was basically an irresistible puzzle handed directly to the world's greatest minds. This next part brilliantly illustrates the exact moment the scientists realized they were dealing with something alive. As researchers studied these blueprints, they noticed that the digital files were actually changing, not daily, but every single second. New equations were appearing, old ones were vanishing. To test this impossible reality, one physicist actually printed a single page of the blueprint. 10 minutes later, the physical ink on that static printed page had physically altered and rearranged itself to match the evolving digital code. The blueprints were rewriting themselves. The message was watching them. The tension absolutely peaks when the message finally speaks back. The screens in the lab light up with just 6 words. You're learning faster than expected. No one typed it, no one transmitted it. Imagine the chills in that laboratory. Humanity suddenly realized the dynamic had completely flipped. They were no longer studying the message. The message was studying them. Every question the scientist asked was answered before they even finished asking it. The intelligence on the other side was just always one step ahead. Watch how this rapidly escalates into a full-blown global crisis. Every screen on Earth turns black once more. But this time, there is no text, just a countdown starting at the number 30. 30 days. No explanation, no warning. Total panic sweeps across the planet because nobody has a clue what happens at 0. But instead of stopping, governments actually accelerate the construction of the gateway. Obsession just completely takes over. The machine grows massive, literally consuming more power than entire nations, and it's practically designing itself as the clock ticks down. Which brings us to the final day, 0. The message appears one last time with 4 simple words. It's time to meet. The quantum gateway powers on. The ground violently shakes. Space itself, right above the facility, begins to fold inward, instantly killing all camera and satellite signals in the area. And then an eerily calm, almost human voice fills the silent, terrified laboratory. The voice delivers the first massive twist of the narrative. You believe I came from your future, it says? I didn't. You built the only door I needed. It is a staggering realization. The blueprints weren't some gift of future technology, and the gateway wasn't a time machine at all. It was a lock, and humanity was totally tricked into opening it from the inside. So the absolutely crucial point here is this total inversion of power. The voice continues, just breaking the scientist's reality apart. For 1 year, you believed you were studying me. You were never the scientists. You were the experiment. Suddenly, the screens in the lab flash to life, displaying thousands of other timelines, alternate Earths. Some are ending in these massive fires, others are completely frozen in ice, and some are just simply disappearing into nothingness. From the blinding light of the space-folding gateway, everyone naturally expects a machine, some kind of monster or conqueror, way beyond human comprehension. Instead, we reach this unexpected, deeply emotional turning point. Out of the blinding light walks a 10-year-old child, barefoot, totally calm, just smiling. The visual contrast between that terrifying apocalyptic buildup and this innocent figure completely paralyzes the room. A scientist slowly steps forward, probably shaking, and asks, "Who are you?" The child replies, "I am your future." But when the room erupts in confusion, the child shakes his head. "No, I'm what's left of it." He points to the screens, which now show cities that aren't burning or destroyed. They are simply empty. Completely silent. No cars, no people, no sound whatsoever. Humanity has just vanished. The child explains the tragic, cyclical nature of this cosmic trap. You were never supposed to build the gateway, he says. You were supposed to ignore the message. The revelation here is just devastating. Every single civilization across all these timelines receives the exact same warning. Every single one believes they are special, that they can outsmart the warning and somehow change their fate. And every single civilization falls to their own hubris and builds the gateway anyway. When a terrified physicist finally asks who actually created the message, the child delivers a profound gut punch. You did. The warning wasn't alien. It wasn't some cosmic enemy. It was created by humanity itself, long after it was already too late. A desperate distress signal cast across realities by a dying version of ourselves. Let's really break down the true purpose of this entire ordeal, because this was never a test of scientific intelligence. It was an interdimensional search for a civilization strong enough and wise enough to refuse the blueprint. Humanity passed every complex scientific challenge perfectly. We solved the impossible equations, but we failed the ultimate test of wisdom. We simply could not resist our own fatal curiosity. We just had to open the door. As the gateway begins to collapse and the blinding light fades, the child takes one final step backward and leaves the scientists with these haunting final words. The greatest threat to humanity was never the future. It was curiosity without limits. The gateway vanishes. The laboratory goes dead silent. In the days that follow, the project is entirely erased from human history. Documents are destroyed, recordings are deleted. Humanity tries its best to pretend it never even happened. Exactly 1 year passes. Life returns to normal. People actually begin to believe the nightmare is finally over. And then, as our source material brilliantly concludes, at exactly 8:17 a.m., Every single phone on Earth vibrates again. There is no countdown this time, no long, drawn-out warning, just a final, terrifying notification of 6 words. You were never the first timeline. And the screen fades to black. Which leaves us with the ultimate cliffhanger, and a question that challenges the very instincts that doomed the scientists in the story. We have seen exactly how human nature reacts to the unknown. We've seen how the desperate need to know overpowers the instinct to just survive. So I leave you with this to think about. If a mysterious message suddenly buzzed on your phone tomorrow morning, warning you of the end of the world, would you open it?